Dropdowns are fairly common in the modern UI and can have a plethora of looks and features. But implementation wise, they can be classified as either traditional dropdowns, these are implemented using a combination of select and input tags, or the modern CSS dropdown. And these are implemented using a combination of div and a tags. Furthermore, both categories can have a single select or a multi-select variant. In this video, we are going to look at ways of interacting with the old style dropdown using a combination of Selenium and Java. Okay, so here I am in my IntelliJ IDE and I have already created a project and written some setup code, right? So here I am instantiating my Chrome driver and just applying some implicit weight to it. Okay. Next, just let's have a look at the site that we'd be practicing on. We would be using the Internet Heroku app, and actually this provides in a lot of options for practicing Selenium, right? In this today we would be using drop down. Okay, so let's just inspect this element once. Okay, and before this, let's copy the address and feed it to our driver.get so that it opens that, right? And click over here, next line. Let's get this element. I can see it has got an ID drop down. Let's use this. And since there is only one element, I'm pretty much sure that this will be unique. So let's just do driver dot find element by dot id and put in the id that we copied. Okay, and I will save this id in a web element because we will be working with this a lot. So web element, let's name drop down. Okay, now we have that. Next, let's have a look at the elements that are present inside this dropdown. Okay, so here I have got option one and option two. Okay, these are options, and I can see a value attribute to it, and I can see a text attribute to it. Right? And so we can select these options using these attributes. Plus, we can use index also. That is always there, right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so since this is a select tag, we can use the Selenium select class. So let's just do it select. Let's name it select itself equal to new select. And this actually requires in the web element that we would be working on, right? So select will be performing select on a particular web element, right? So it's natural that it would require a web element for initializing, right? Now next we can select using let's say value. So type in select, type in dot. Again, you will get a lot of options over here. We'll be using select by value first. And what value should we select? Let's go back. Let's select value 2. Okay. So this, put it over here. But just selecting is not enough, right? We need to verify that we have selected the correct thing, or we need to check whether the correct thing has been selected or not. So instead of putting an assert statement right now, I'll just print out what was selected, right? We can do that. First, let's just write the print statement. We can do that using the select itself. If you do select dot, you will find, you can do get. Yeah, you can find this option, the get first selected option, right? This will actually return you the first selected option if you have multiple selections, or this would return you this selected option if you are using a single select variant, right? So let's just do it, and this actually would return you the web element. So let's get text, to know whether the correct thing was printed or not. Now let's just run this once and see. How much have we got right? So I can see that option 2 was selected over here, and let's just have a look at our console output. It printed option 2. Ooh. So we can select by value. Now let's do a select by visible text. Right. So this time let's select the first option, option 1. So the text of option 1 is, just copy the entire text from here, paste it, and we will do the same thing that we did in the previous step for verification, right? So before printing this, let's print some demarcator over here so that we know that what is being printed by visible text. So let's do this, and in the above print statement, let's put in by value. Sorry, let's put in few colons over here, and yeah, and let's just run this again. Okay, so I can see that my option 1 is selected over here. Let's close this, right, and let's have a look at our console output. I can see by value option 2 was selected, and by visible text option 1 was selected. Okay, let's use the last option again. I mean the last type of select. So let's select using index. So select by index. So what do you think? The index should start from 0 or 1? Let's find that out. So for index, let's first put in 0 and check what we get. That's out by index plus, I'll get copy this again, Control C, and paste it over here. Let's run this. Sorry, go up, run this. Hmm. So let's look at our, okay, it was selecting option 1, so 0 worked. Now let's check 1, right? So if 0 was my first selection, 1 should be my second selection. And just to avoid the confusion, let's comment this out, right? Okay, now let's run this again. Okay, that's strange. 0 also selected 1, and 1 also selected 1. Hmm. So most probably something went wrong, right? And we missed something because of the previous selections. Let's just do a 0 over here without any other selection. And most probably this time we'll get that nothing is selected. Okay, so nothing was selected. Please select an option. Good. Okay, so what did that tell us? So actually what happens is that, you can see two options over here, but you have one more option, right? That is not available for selection. Generally, that option is at index 0. The index starts from 0 always. Okay, so 1, 2, that would be your 0th index. And as we cannot select this, it's not available for selection. When we try to include the 0th index, it gives us that output that we already saw. Okay, now besides selection, we can do few more things, right? So we can do a deselect. and then we can find out which type of select it is, right? So we would be using this for testing, and in testing the first test case that we would generally have is like identify what type of select it the particular select is, right? Is it a multi-select or is it a single select? So how do we find that out? Actually, select class has us covered there also. So if you just type in select and dot, you will find a class that actually tells you which type of select it is. So if you go down, you have this option is multiple. This would return you a true if the select is a multi-select and a false if this is not a multi-select, right? So let's print this out and see. That's out. Let's just leave it over here. Okay. And run this again. Now let us go back and check the console output. False. So this tells me that this is not a multi-select. And what about deselecting? What would happen if we try to deselect in a singular select, right? So deselect option would work in a multi-select, right? That is pretty obvious. But what would the output be when we try to use it in a singular select, right? So the scenario could be that you have a screen where you were previously having a multi-select, but the developer changed it for some reason, like you had a change in behavior, and that multi-select became a singular select, but you did not change your test script. So what would happen in those scenarios? These can be, pretty good interview questions, and are generally asked in interviews also. So let's have a look at what would we get as an output. So let's do a deselect, right? Select dot deselect. Let's do it by index itself. And before deselection, I think we should do a select. So one, one. And let's just look at the output, what we get. Okay. So run this. Fine. Let's go and have a look at the results. I've got one failure. So we did get an exception. Okay. An unsupported operation exception was thrown. Okay, so that's all for this one. And the next one, we'll work a bit with multi-select dropdowns. Thank you and hope you have a good day.